Yo, what up? Welcome to Articview. I'm Josie, and this is October Reads. There was August Reads, but stop it! There was an August Reads, but it didn't turn out well. So this is what you're going to get. I have 4 books to talk about. One is more of a history book about maps. Then there's one book that is said to be a mix of Charles Dickens and Harry Potter. So kind of a young adult, but kind of not. Then there's one straight up young adult book. And then there's one book that's dystopian feminist thingamajiggy. So I don't know how to describe them. These are the descriptions that were on the back of the books. But long story short, let's get started. And the first book I'm going to talk about is Smoke by Dan Vyleta. And this is the book which I picked out because, first of all, it looks dope. And second of all, it was said that it's kind of like Harry Potter for adults mixed with Charles Dickens. And I can say that I agree with half of that sentiment. So it is kind of like gritty Victorian London, the setting where everything takes place. So I guess that's where the Charles Dickens influence comes in. But the Harry Potter one, I mean, there is kind of sort of like magic, but it's not really magic per se. So the idea of it is that all your sinful or bad thoughts that you think about, they manifest in smoke. So if you think about something bad, smoke comes out of you and everybody else knows that you thought something bad. Which makes living in this society kind of a challenge. And this story follows 2 boys from boarding school who are friends, who befriend a girl. So these 3 people, 2 boys and a girl, get mixed up in an adventure, let's say it like that. And I guess this is where the Harry Potter thing comes in because, as everybody knows, there are Ron, Harry, and Hermione. And there is something sinister going on with Harry, so there's one boy like that. But it's really not similar to Harry Potter at all. I mean, they do like spend most of their time doing crap ball in a forest at first. So there's something that's like at the later parts of the Harry Potter series. But yeah, it's not Harry Potter. And I had real trouble getting into this book. It started out really like gritty and depressing, but as I kept going, it took me months to keep going. But as I kept going, it kept getting more interesting, and I really liked how it ended. I think it really just ended on a high note. So I would definitely recommend for you to read this book. I mean, the setting is really, really cool. Like, how would you live if everything bad you thought would manifest itself in smoke? And yes. So this all idea of the smoke gets explored, why it happened, what was before that, and everything like that. So yes, I do. I like the ending. I like the plot actually. I like the characters a lot. I feel like they're better than in Harry Potter because some of Rowling's characterization is, but yes, liked it. Okay, let's get going. Keep going. Let's keep going. The second book I read is The Water Cure, and it's by Sophie Mackintosh. And I walked past this book a couple of times, and then maybe it can be good. It was discounted, so I picked it up. And when I started to read it, I was thrown back through history to when I was a teenager. And when I first started reading Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, so if you've ever read that book, you know that it has a very, very specific setting. So it is, you feel like you're choking, you don't have air, you feel closed in, everything is kind of like hazy, at least this is how I remember it, and this was the same. So it can be said that this book is in 3 parts. So and all the parts are written in a different way, kind of. The first part is very like a bell jar like, so you don't really understand what's happening. It is quite depressing and quite triggering in a way. If you've ever been in that head space, then here's a warning for you, that it really can enhance the feeling that you maybe are feeling or you have repressed. I did have a bit of trouble with it because it was slightly triggering. And the second part is the characters, 3 sisters, really kind of starting to break out of this hazy existence, and then at the end it is very objective in a way. So it starts with very, very subjective feelings, and at the end they can objectively, or at least the middle sister can look at everything objectively, and you actually feel like somebody has turned this TV into a setting that where you can see everything clearly. Everything, well, it's not really 3D, but at least it's clearer, a lot clearer than it was before. But the main idea is that the world is, I don't know if it's ending, everything has gone to hell, and a family moves to a deserted island. I think it's an island, but late, or maybe, yes, let's say it's an island. And there's kind of a psychological counseling going on. So women from mainland come to the island, and they go through different psychological counseling and different cures, one of which is the water cure, which is basically drowning a person until the last final minute, and then they can be born again. So that's kind of dark, and a lot of the book is very kind of dark and repressive, but at the end this status quo is broken, and the 3 sisters kind of escape from it all. But yes, this is, you have to read it. I do feel confident in recommending it. It's different. And don't set your hopes really high, because I feel like if you set them at a middle level, then you'll be happy reading this. Yes, yes. I think so. I surprisingly enjoyed it, and I do think that these 3 separate parts really work together and added to the experience. It was different from what I've read a lot of times before, so yes. Now, everybody has read this, everybody has recommended this to me, and this book is 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and it's from Krisha's verse. Anyway, it's part of a 2-book series, and everybody says that if you read one adult book, if you read one if you want to read a good young adult book, then this is it. And I've seen a lot of people talk about it. I've seen a lot of my friends talk about it. So I was like, okay, I'll pick it up. And then I had a lot of trouble getting into it. I mean, the first like 80 pages didn't really grip me. I saw where this was going. I realized it was good writing, but everything started to happen when they actually left Ketterdam, the city, where the first setting was, and then I started to really enjoy it. And basically it's a heist story. So 6 people, young people, are trying to break out a prisoner from a really high security prison. I think the only trouble I had with this book is that I'm old. I don't know if you've seen the meme that says that reading young adult books when you're 16. Old me is now, child, go home, sit down. So this is the trouble I had with this. The author did a good job of setting up that they all had life experience and they had grown up really young in a very harsh settings, and they had acquired all those skills, and they were of course very gifted. But at the end, it was 16, 17-year-olds breaking somebody out of a high security prison, doing all sorts of tricks and manipulations, and I was like, I mean, I teach kids that young, and not to like look down on the kids that I teach, but none of them could manage what this book was telling. I do realize that this is young adult, and that's the whole point of the genre. But yes. But that's my problem. I did the thing that when I finished it was that I have to buy the second one, and I think that's the how you see that the book is good. That when you finish it, you want to read the next one right away. I think everybody has read it, but if you haven't read it, this is really cool setting. There is magic. There is a plot where you think that you know what's going to happen, it gets twisted, and then you're like, oh yeah, now I know when it's where it's going, and then again it switches, and you're like, right. Good, nice. And now this is the book about maps. Yay! For those of you who have visited my apartment, then you know I am quite into maps. There's one up there. It's an imaginary map of Ankh-Morpork. But this book had it all. This had real maps, imaginary maps, stories about GPS, stories about Dungeons and Dragons, stories about Marauders map in Harry Potter, but then of course all the important historical maps, like starting with Ptolemy, and then Mappa Mundi, and then how the maps grew as our world was discovered by the great discoverers. It was really good. It was well researched. There were several pictures to illustrate everything. It had quite a bit of funny stories. There was a bit about building globes, so that's another kind of map, a different kind of map. There were stories about map thieves, because the world of maps is very highly priced, because the maps that were done 500 years ago, 800 years ago, they are not in large amount. There's not a lot. What are words? Anyway, and the book, what's the book called? The book is called On the Map, Mind-Expanding Exploration of the Way the World Works, by Simon Garfield. Enjoyed it, felt it was a tad bit too long. I got really tired by the end, but I do realize that they wanted to just include everything. Fun stuff. If you like maps, if you are weird like me, definitely recommend this. I loved it a lot. I feel like I kind of ruined myself for other books about maps, because this was so like it had such a great scope. But yes, definitely gonna read more books about maps. Right. These were the books I finished in October. I had a lot of fun reading them. I felt like I kind of got back into the whole reading thing, maybe because it's too cold to play Pokemon Go every day. But yes, I hope you enjoyed it, and leave a like, subscribe if you haven't, and Hopefully, we'll see you next month with a lot more books that I have read. Bye!